Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Glennda Guru. I've got to tell you, I have known the gentleman sitting next to me virtually for a long time. I remember, Tristan, and you won't remember this, I'm sure. I got lost in the office park where your office was. And I want to say that your office was next to Realtor.com at one time. Am I right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. And I wandered into the office.
That's funny.
And I saw you and I'm like, oh, I am definitely not in Kansas anymore. I was like, holy cow. So Tristan, I mean, you're almost like Cher and Madonna and Bono. I mean, I know that you have a last name, but I don't even know that anybody says it or pronounces it properly because I've only known you as Tristan forever. So Tristan, for my followers, for my viewers that don't know you, that haven't met you before, give us a little background.
Yeah, I'll give you a background. So it all started with me in college with a history degree and not knowing what I wanted to do with a history degree because I didn't want to teach. I'm like, I don't want to be a professor. I just don't want to do it. And so I was married at the time, by the way. I got married when I was 19. And I asked my mom, I'm like, what should I do with a history degree? She's like, you know what? Real estate agents drive really nice cars. And that's her answer. And I was sold, literally. That was the reason I did it. I was like, I am in. That's good. And I got my real estate.
You are kidding me.
That's it. That was it.
Oh my gosh. But I have to say, you really kind of never left that teaching background because I don't know you as Tristan, the real estate agent. I really know you as Tristan. In fact, you were or started the first Facebook group for real estate agents that I ever knew of.
Yeah, it took on a life of its own. So we met at Realtor.com, right?
Yes.
So that was when I was consulting Realtor.com at the time because we were purchasing at that time, like 2010, we were the number one purchaser of leads for the whole nation, for the team. And so we went there and I explained to them what I had. They put me on stage at NAR and they're like, this is amazing. Let's have you speak everywhere. So I did. And I said, hey, Realtor.com, I think we can answer a lot of these questions we're getting from stage in a blog or a group. It was my wife's idea. She's like, do a Facebook group. And I was like, so she's right every time. I don't listen fast enough. That's the problem. It's terrible.
Like most men, but anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
And so the Facebook group I started because of that. And I said, hey, Realtor.com, you guys want to be part of this? And they're like, no, you do it on your own. We'll help you from the sales floor. Everyone that calls in will just be like, hey, jump into Realtor.com because I was talking about online lead conversion. So then it started growing from there, took a life of its own. And Inman picked us up. Then Facebook picked us up because they were in the audience one time. So that then started a whole different segment, which was us flying up to Palo Alto and then running the real estate advisory board for Meta for 4 years, which was amazing. So we put them in with Keller Williams, with EXP, with Anywhere. And then that relationship was amazing with them and with the rest of the industry. That's the part that, the lab coat agents part, right?
Yeah.
All in the meantime, I'm running a team and we're in the top 1% in the nation. And it's mainly online leads and referrals. That's where most of our business comes from. And so that was a progression of us growing. Were there a lot of shit times? Yeah, there were, but a lot of good times too.
But Tristan, when were you licensed as a real estate agent? What year?
2004.
Okay, wow. You must have been 12 in 2004.
I was 11. You so close.
So you just gotten out of college.
So I got out of college and I was living in a bedroom in my mom's home, right? And I really didn't know, we didn't know what to do. So I got my license. The day I got my license officially, I felt like this was it. We're going to be millionaires. This is my thought. Okay. This is it. I, I remember the feeling. I went door knocking for 6 hours that day, suited up with nice dress shoes, ready to go. I was like, I'm not doing that again in SoCal, but I'm going to change my shoes. And I realized I loved it when this little old lady, I was sweating, and I got my license in May. So starting of summer in our area. And she said, come on in. It looks like you're really hot. You want a glass of water? I'm like, this is so cool. And that's why I was like, I love this. That was my first day.
I love it. I love it. So you really kind of like beat the pavement. Like you were door knocking, you were cold calling, you were really like the real estate fundamentals is where you started.
Yeah. And we did all that and we succeeded. My first 3 closings happened 3 months after I got my license. And they all happened on the same day. And open house, door knocking, just somebody happened to be there that wanted to buy, which is crazy. And then a referral from my mom. Those 3 all closed on the same day, got paid. I picked up the checks. I could not believe it. I went home again, my room in my mom's house with my wife. We're rich. It was nuts. It was beautiful too, because it's the most money I've ever seen ever in my entire life. And
Can I ask how much it was?
Yeah, it was close to $45,000 because it was 3 checks, and I paid off our student loans and our credit cards, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. I still remember. I'm like, there's no limit. But here's the problem. We have an amazing first 1 and a year and a half. Century 21. I started with C21, and I went from making $500,000 as a single agent, and then the market tanked. I went to making $55,000 in a year. And I was like, what the hell happened? Right? And that affected me because that was the first time like a major loss business. So I had a lot of anxiety and I'm sure some type of depression, right? But that was a whole learning curve because I went from old school, right, cold calling, door knocking, doing all that stuff, to then trying to figure out, well, none of that's working in my world. What do I do next? And that's when I discovered online. So Craigslist, SEO, then paid ads with Google, and then Realtor.com. And then it changed the business. I'm like, wait a second, I can't handle this many leads coming through. I think I need a team, but I don't know how to build one. So that was the beginning of starting a team.
You really were kind of like the godfather of online leads for real estate agents. I mean, I really feel like that if I think back to when they started selling online leads for real estate agents, I really feel like that you were kind of like the poster child for that for many, many years, definitely in the beginning and for many years subsequent to that. And then you have this Facebook group that kind of takes on a life of its own. And you're creating these agent to agent referrals within this Facebook group. And I got to tell you, when I first saw it come across as a suggestion for me, I looked at it and I was like, oh, none of these, all these agents are with one brokerage. They're not with my brokerage. I must have accidentally gotten like snuck in the back door to this like brokerage website. And then I remember my friend Sergio said to me, he goes, no, it's not just for one brokerage. There's people I'm in there. You should come in. I'm like, oh, okay. Funny. So I got in and I could not believe the wealth of information being shared within this Facebook group. Yeah. How do you handle for sale by owners? How do you handle expireds? I have a client that did this. I have a buyer that saw that house. This happened in an inspection. And it was literally somewhere between Dear Abby and a self-help group.
Oh, it's so true. That is a great combo. Good.
It was, because there was so much advice being given in this group. And I mean, there were some people that were quacks, obviously, because in any group you've got that, but so much value. And it was almost like I couldn't look away from it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I think Facebook did a great job in creating groups. And I
Yeah.
don't know that they realized it until it was way later. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we did something kind of awesome and it kept them relevant and still,
Yeah.
right? Which is crazy. Yeah, I love groups. I think groups are still a big piece to the Facebook environment and to, I think, connecting with a newer audience like the Gen Zs. I'm watching a lot of Gen Zs jump into groups, which is crazy to me.
It's interesting. So let me ask you now. So Tristan, where's your focus? I mean, my goodness gracious, you've got real estate and you've got Facebook groups and
uh,
speaking and
I'll tell you,
community.
that's a great question. So I think this was a good lesson that I learned by accident. All right. So, and I think you can relate to this very well, which is I, because of lab coat agents, I got a lot of opportunities, and the opportunities that were coming my way, I didn't know they were opportunities, and I didn't know what to do with them. In fact, I didn't know how to monetize lab coat agents at all. I was like, how do I do this? And so in doing that, I realized that a lot of companies coming in needed an audience to start their company.
Yeah.
And I learned that by accident. And I teamed up with a great one to start off with at the very beginning. And because of that, they ended up selling and we ended up cashing out. And so that I was like, wait a second, that's a really good idea. And so instead, we started asking for equity from companies, right? Equity. We don't do affiliates. We don't do anything like that. We're like, hey, you know what? This is our track record, right? We've
Yeah.
been with Follow Up Boss since the beginning, and look where they are, right? And now I have a contract with Zillow, but still, with companies like that, it's like this is what we've done, guys. This is the power of what we do because we care, we use it, and we're going to get paid from it. So now
Right.
we have a list of companies that we own part equity in, and then we sit on different boards and tech. So it's a whole different world that we were thrown into. We just had to pay attention to those opportunities and ask the right questions of people we didn't know what to do. We're like, well, what do you do here? Right. That was one. The other piece to this is we also realized that our audience allowed us to create other things like helping companies connect with others. So on the consulting side, right? And saying, no, your product's all wrong. You actually have to tweak this. And this is your audience. And then obviously coaching, which I haven't really jumped in too much in, right? But naturally people want to talk to you and they want, hey, can you help me here? Can you help me there? That. And then most recently, we've been able to, I just started my own brokerage. So started in California last week. And
OMS. I don't think I knew that.
yeah, it's a soft launch in California, and then we're expanding to the rest of the nation. So
Holy cow.
yeah, it just happened to be by accident, and it just fell on my lap. And I'm like, listen, if I have to focus on the back end of this, guys, I'm going to fail. That's not my strength. I can do the front end, right, and the teaching and all that great stuff. And so I teamed up with Candace Cullen, and she and her husband ran the number one Keller Williams in the nation and the region for a while. They sold, and they said, hey, you want to partner up on this? And I'm like, hell yeah, if you guys are going to run the back end.
Yeah.
Candace is brilliant. So I'm like, let's get you on the map and have a woman leader, right, side by side. Let's do this together, Candace. So that's what I'm doing now, along with everything else.
I feel like I kind of I'm breaking news, Glennda.
It might be.
I love it. So can you tell me what the name is?
Yeah, it's called the letter Y Realty. And the idea came from Candace and her husband, which is they realized that as they were running the other brokerages for years, the question was, it starts with why. Like everything starts with why. Like, why are you really doing? Like, why was I doing this? I wanted a really nice car. That's all why. That's my why. Right.
Wow.
And that was it. That
And
was,
what do you think that you bring the brokerage community that's not
yeah, great
already
question.
here?
Yeah. So I had to think about this one because we sat down and I said, I'm not going to do this in its current structure that you guys have. So I changed the structure with them. And then I think more importantly, the philosophy behind it. Because in running a big Facebook group and in talking to tech companies and brokerages, I'm like, well, I think I know what's missing. Here it is, guys. And it was with one question that it really came from. I said, what's the one thing that's not going to change in the next 20, 30, 40, 100 years from now? Because I'll tell you something, it's not tech, even though tech companies are now real estate companies. It's not media, even though, you and I both have different social media that are great. And it's not rev share, right? Rev share is changing as we speak. Instead, why don't we focus on the real piece of this and focus on the human aspect, which is relationships, community, leadership. Those are the things that aren't going to change 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. You go back 5,000, 6,000 years, it was all about communities and those relationships in those communities. And people follow people, right? They have to believe in those people. So leadership matters. And so, in essence, this is the core of what we're building. It's almost like an extension of what I built in lab coats, where I felt like now I have a ceiling. Well, now I'm expanding out of that and saying, hey, why don't you come and join me on this ride because we're putting you first. And here is how we're doing that. So that's the idea.
Wow, that is amazing. And I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think that relationships, community, and leadership are absolutely fundamentals of real estate that can't be taken away. They can't be, they cannot be taken away from the real estate agent from anyone.
Oh, thank
And
you.
you're right, whether it's a tech company, whether it's rev share, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to take the place of the real estate agent when it comes to the actual relationship, their position in the community, and their leadership ability. I
Yeah.
love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
Now, tell me, when you talk to real estate agents, like, it's almost 2025, and you talk to real estate agents, like, what are you telling them today? Like how are, like, there's so much fear, and there's so
Mhm.
much fear mongering, and there's so much, like, uncertainty and confusion in the real estate industry amongst real estate professionals. What are you telling real estate agents to give them clarity and some certainty about their future?
So, great question. I think it starts with what you indicated a little bit ago, which was it really comes down to us, to the skills we're building, right? And in those skills that we're building, those are transferable to success over a long period of time. And so the question I always ask is, great, it is kind of scary. We don't know where we're heading, but was it different last year? Was it different yesterday? How do you know you're going to be alive tomorrow? Right? Like,
Yeah.
why don't we focus on things that are transferable, regardless of where you're at, what brokerage you're at, what situation you're in? And let's outline how that looks. What are the skills you need to work on based on who you think your audience is going to be? Right. And then those skills, how do you niche down on those things? Because one thing we have learned is the more niche you are, the bigger your audience is going to get because they're going to love you more. And they're the ones that are going to spread that love.
Yeah.
So, my key is, what are the skill sets you need to get into this new world that we're going to get into? And guess what? The skill set, it's the same damn thing it's always been. Like, we live in a world where relationships are the core to everything. And in building those, you're building this amazing community. And then in building this community, what do they look for? They look for leadership. So we've always got to be working on ourselves continuously over and over and over. And that is the reinvention of ourselves. It's like, let's learn to unlearn all the things that we learned, because the world changes. We don't do things exactly the same, but they have the same core to it. Right. And that's what I've been telling agents. And I get really specific. I'm like, well, let's make a plan. Let's let's outline this. You all got a database. It's called your phone. Even if you don't have a CRM, you've got your phone, right? So let's make a plan. let's reach out to minimum. Let's talk to 5 people a day in your phone. Talk to them, see how they're doing, and come up with great ways to connect with them. One of the things that we've done since March, I've had a few agents be like, that doesn't work. But that happens in everywhere, right? Yeah, TikTok doesn't work, by the way, Glennda. Just so you know.
That's right.
I don't know what you're doing.
That's right. Y'all keep thinking that.
So we reached out to our clients at the time, and we tweak it a little bit, but remember, these are our people on our phone. We're simply texting them and saying, hey, Glennda, it's Tristan. Listen, do you have 5 minutes? I have a real estate question for you for a change. And then they're usually like, yeah, hit me up. Or can you talk after 5? Whatever it is. Call them up. I say, hey, Glennda, it's Tristan. Listen, I've got a real estate question for you. I know it's kind of a weird one this time, but do you have a minute? And like, yeah, go ahead. Well, what do you think about everything that's going on in the real estate world right now? And then I just shut up. And then they say things like, do you mean the whole commission thing? Or they'll say things like, do you mean the market? Or right? And then whatever they tell me, I say, yeah, that's it. What do you think? And then they start talking. And then they say, yeah, you know what? The whole 6% commission thing, I don't think I fully understand it, but it doesn't make sense. Right? Or the market, whatever it is. Then here's the best part, because this is why we did it. Right? This is my telemarketing skills coming into play. Then they say, well, Tristan, what do you think? And that's all I was waiting for. Because now, instead of calling and being like, hey, Glennda, do you know the real estate market and the interest rates are really low? I was like, that's going to fall on deaf ears.
Well, and number one, you're asking them the question, and where whatever they think is the real estate stuff going on is what they answer.
Yeah, and it's important to them.
And it's important. That's what's important to them, whatever their answer is. Yeah. And you're the real estate expert, so you should be able to answer anything that they come up with, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is it really gives you the opportunity to be real, relevant, reliable, and relatable where they are. And that's where a lot of real estate agents, they just want to talk at you. Yeah, and they just want to hear themselves talk. And it falls on deaf ears because what you're talking about may not even be what your audience is interested in. I was in Las Vegas 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I did a keynote on moving from service provider into relationship with your clients.
Ooh.
And how important that is, because a service provider is disposable, replaceable. Anybody can be a plumber. Anybody can be your plumber. I just Google plumber and I can find 50 different plumbers.
Yeah.
And what I really want real estate agents to focus on is that their clients don't go to Google and Google real estate agent near me, that you are their Google when it comes to real estate, and how to be top of mind and how to be, the person that they turn to no matter what is going on in their world as it relates to real estate. And I think that now more than ever, agents were just hanging on every word, realizing, oh, wait a minute. That's exactly, like, I do need to be in relation. When was the last time I talked to Glennda, I haven't talked to my people in 3 years. It'd be kind of weird if I called them now. It wouldn't be really weird if you sent them a video text and said, hey, I was just driving by your house. And I remember when we looked at that house, you talked about changing the color of the front door because you wanted to paint it red. And your husband went to Episcopal church as a child. And every time that you walked through that red door, it would remind your husband of the church that he went to. I got to tell you, I drove by and I was so excited to see that the door was red. It took me back to the day that you fell in love with that house. That video, you talked to him last week.
Amazing.
Yeah, you talked to him last year. And that's the thing, is always bring the people back to a great moment with you. Whether it was, for me, I remember, I'll never forget this. Scott fell through the wall he was buying new construction and he leaned on it. And every time I talk to him, I say, do you know what? I never ever drive by that house you almost bought and not think about you falling through the wall.
That's great.
And that's like my lead-in line ever. And he's been my client for years. And so that's why real estate agents, they don't understand. Real estate is emotional, number one. And real estate is also analytical. And if you can connect how they felt and how it helped them, that's it. That's where you want to be in relationship with your people, is when it was emotional to them and when you were the problem solver or the solution to their problem.
You know, you reminded me of something. I'm looking it up right now because I saw it yesterday. Okay, Steve Jobs talking about the iPod to his internal crowd first. So Apple, right? Very small group. He says about the iPod before it comes out. He goes, "It's a tool for the heart, and when you can touch someone's heart, that's limitless." That's what you reminded me of.
Absolutely. I you know me, I am all about see, touch, feel. And that's the thing, is like when you can bring all of that together, to me, I think that's when you're moving from service provider into relationship. And when you can do that within your community, it's like such a great, it's the way to go deep with not only the client, but with the community.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking notes, okay? Just so you're wondering. I'm like, I have a question.
What's he doing over there?
I'm taking notes, but I have a question because I missed one. The 4 R's, I only got 3. You said them really
real,
fast.
Relatable, reliable, and relevant.
Relevant. Thank you.
You got to be relevant. You got to, and I think that's one thing that real estate agents, that again, it goes back to the question that you asked, is what do you think about all of the real estate stuff going on? And what is in their head? And that's the thing, is like, they may not even know about the NAR settlement. They may not have heard about it. That may not be what's relevant to them. What's relevant to them, and I never will forget this. I go on this listing appointment, and what these people are like focused on is that they are building a mosque on the backside of their neighborhood, and these people are focused on. Do you think that we're going to have a bigger audience for our house because they're going to have this mosque behind us? Yeah. And I was like, I mean, that's what these people were focused on. And so rather than me just real estate throw up all over them, asking, and I always ask, what do you think your house is worth? I always ask, if you were going to buy your house today, how much would you pay for it?
It's always a great lead, and I love that.
Yeah, because
you reminded me of this. When I go into typically any meeting or a pitch presentation, or even when we go on stage, Glennda, I'm thinking one thing, which is what you're thinking too. How do I want to make them feel?
Yeah.
Right. How do I want to make them feel? Because that's really what it comes down to. That's where it starts. Like, it starts with the feeling. Then it goes other places, right? But that's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Yeah, it is. It real estate is all about the feelings. I was last week, I was in Vail, and I did a sit down interview, and it's the first time I had really done this like fireside chat thing. And he asked me about my stars. Why do I always wear stars? And I start talking about my mom. And I got so like caught up in talking about my mom, and it just brought me to tears.
Oh, damn.
And I got a little bit choked up. And afterwards, this lady comes up to me and she goes, "I just want to let you know, you really touched me. I lost my mom recently." And then this man walks up to me and he says to me, he goes, I got to tell you, he goes, I've never sat in a real estate conference where nobody looks at their phone, where nobody gets up and leaves. He goes,
Oh,
you had every single person on the side of their seat for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Nobody walked out of this room. And he goes, I've never seen that in any real estate conference. And it was so like, to me, I was like, oh, wow, you know, that really kind of hammered home to that real estate agents, they want to understand the market. They want to understand how to be better.
yeah.
And I think that they're desperately seeking guidance.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can bring that, to me, you're such a leader in our industry and in the agent community specifically, because I think that a lot of people don't look at you like the broker or the owner or the C-suite.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I know that you have been the CMO and held many of those positions, but for me, like, to me, you're just like me. You're a real estate agent.
Yeah. And I do that
Um,
on purpose because I think we can, from what I've seen, change always happens from the edges. Change always happens from down upwards, right? And I don't think that that's ever going to change because
yeah.
it's the people like you and I who are out there doing it, who know what's working, what's not, and I think that makes the difference. We're the ones who make the change.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tristan, I'm going to change gears a little bit because I've got a couple other areas I want to scoot into, and that is, what are you doing on social? What's working for you on social? How are you implementing social into your business strategy?
So we run different questions. Great one. So we run big companies socials and then my personal one. So I'll give you two answers. On the big side, so big companies or those companies you would know out there, we tend to feel and see that anytime you bring in an agent's voice to show how it's working for them, bottom line for me, closings. I need to know that this closes, right? Anytime you lead with that and then get to where you want to get to, you have more success in bringing in demos and bringing in people that are interested in the product. But when you talk to companies, and we can learn from this too, when you talk to companies, they want to start with the features. They're like, hey, you know what? I got mass texting. I got check out my website. And I'm like, guys, this is amazing. But agents don't fucking care because we can't translate that to more closings. Why don't you start with a story about how many closings you got and who you helped, and then reverse into it was because of that mass text or because of this feature. And so we do the same thing as agents out there when we're pitching the features. It's like, just shut up. Just don't talk about any of that stuff. Just get right into the feeling, like, what's important to you, and then just shut up and listen, and then you'll get to where you want to get to. Nobody wants to hear about the features, right? And
No,
so that's all
nobody cares about that.
so big company side there. And on an individual side, what's working for us because I've got a bigger real estate audience rather than the consumer, right? So a lot of it is relevant real estate news. So what's up with NAR? What's happening on a day-to-day basis with real estate information? Short video, I typically clip a news article from like Housing Wire, and I talk about it. Or if it's a longer video on YouTube, I usually go through and read and highlight and explain. That's what we typically do. Those are working very well for us. And what I've noticed, because the same video I post up on Instagram, I post on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts, Facebook for us, there's little shorts are doing really well. And Instagram, it's a hit or miss. It's either Instagram or TikTok. But
Yeah.
listen, nothing like your audience, okay? But we're chugging along. We're chugging along.
Well, I I've told you this before and I'll say it again. It's not how many followers you have, it's how much engagement you enjoy. And if your audience, you can have millions of followers, and I've seen this time and time and time and time and time again. You have so many followers and they are disengaged. You might as well have one follower. I would much rather have 100 followers that are hanging on every word than a million followers that are skipping past me. And I'll tell you, you know, I think, and you talked a lot about stories and features for business. So what you talked about with big business about they don't want to hear about the features, give them a story about how it's going to help them get more closings. Same exact thing with your buyers and sellers. Ask them immediately, like, what is important to them? What is it that they are looking for? Shut up and listen rather than talking at them, and then provide them a case study where you've been the solution. And if you can show them, if you can exhibit where you helped somebody that was exactly where they are get to where they want to go, jackpot.
That's so true. That's very true. What was it? Aristotle outlined how most speeches should be done. In fact, pitches or connecting with an audience. Pathos, ethos, and logos. So pathos is storytelling, right? Start with something that's like yours, and then you get into the other two, and it really is a progression. So it's tell me the story about you. Now tell me how that relates to me. Now prove that with facts, right? With the research. And in essence, if you circulate through that, you will never go wrong. So we can thank Aristotle for that one.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And there's your little history degree.
I know it's crazy.
You had no idea I was going to take us back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So, Tristan, I know that I've kept you here a while. I've just got a couple more questions. I hate to let you go. So let me ask you a question. If you were, okay, so you're an experienced agent.
Mm-hmm.
If you went back today and today was your first day, what would you tell Tristan on day one?
So whatever you're going to do, I don't care where you're going to go to try to get business, open houses, door knocking, social, doesn't matter. I need you, Tristan, to create a database from day one, and I need you to categorize them from day one. So I need you to categorize them as either A, B, C, D, like people you know are going to refer business because they are referring it. B, they might refer it. C, I've never asked, but I'm assuming. And D, they're never going to refer business. And then expand on that, because if you don't have a database that you categorize from the very beginning, you won't be running a business. You'll always be reactive, and you won't be able to rely on your previous earnings to grow your business further long term. That would be the number one thing, because I didn't do it. That's why. That's why I can tell you why. That's it.
And where do you see our industry? You know, obviously you're bullish on real estate. You just started a brokerage, for goodness sake. So obviously you don't think we're going anywhere.
No, I think it's going to change, though. I do think we see a few things happening. One, we're being attacked by a lot of different industries. Not only we see attorneys attacking us in civil litigation, that's going to continue. We're going to start seeing more of those, by the way, but because we're watching them build out. That's one. Number two, you're also going to see, because of that, we're going to earn less on one side, and because agents just can't seem to figure it out long term, right? It's going to change who we are. Eventually we'll catch up, but that's going to mean we're going to lose a few agents. Number three, we're going to see AI change the way that we do business. We're already starting to see with some of the companies we're talking to what they're trying to build. And that means, in essence, uh, it transforms who we are as an agent and takes us away from what we were and what we are to what we should have been from the very beginning. So it's a good thing for us, but unfortunately, we will lose agents along those lines. And for you and I, that focus on relationships, focusing on what people actually need. Like I loved what you said, which was we need to be synonymous with real estate. You said, and I think that protects us in the future because now people doesn't matter where they go, doesn't matter, they don't want to go to Zillow AI or Redfin, whatever, right? They just want Glennda because
Yeah,
that's who they see and who they know and who they trust, right? The 4 R's.
that's right.
And so we're going to start seeing some companies take a bigger piece of our commission. So now we're having compressed commission, a bigger piece of our commission, because Zillow, Redfin, and everyone else realized finally, wait, we can't remove the agent. They're an integral part to this. It's the biggest purchase anybody ever makes. Let's just take a bigger piece.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's going to continue to happen. But here's where we come in, like you and I. We come in to show agents how to transition into this whole new world by saying, hey, all this stuff is kind of fancy and pretty, right? But guess what? It's still going to take hard work to get it done. And that's still going to fall on us. And this is what hard work looks like. It doesn't mean you're going to sit on your ass and complain about what's happening. It means you take on what you can control, right? The actions that you can take. And here are the skills that you need. And here are the skills that are valuable in the next 2, 3, 4 years. And that's what we focus on because, yes, it's going to get harder. And more people, more agents, and the consumer need agents like you and I to lead the way.
I love that. Now you're digging in deep on AI. I've seen a lot of your stuff coming out. What is your favorite? What top 3 AIs for real
All right.
estate?
Number 1, by far is gamma.app, GAMMA.app. And I'll tell you what, I'm on that daily. So I built out something really fast that everyone can do here. The one challenge for the consumers, they don't fully understand what the NAR situation means for them. So what I did is I had ChatGPT simply outline it really fast, cute little outline. And I grabbed it and I put it into Gamma and I asked Gamma to make a 1-page PDF from it that I could hand out at open houses or that I could give out after a conversation. Hey, Glennda, thanks for visiting our website. Listen, I don't want to spam you, blah, 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 crap, crap, crap. At the end of the conversation, I'm like, hey, Glennda, I'll do 2 things for you. One, I'm going to send you 2 homes just to kind of get a better idea to see if I'm actually not spamming you. Let me know, Tristan, that's it, or you're way off. And number 2, I'm going to send you a 1-page document. It's going to explain to you what the current situation is in our world. This way you know what to look for. I'll send that over to you. And so that took me about 5 seconds to create. So you create websites, you create presentations, and you create PDFs with Gamma. Number 2, proximity.ai, and proximity spelled like proximity. And that website, I am using it a little bit more than ChatGPT now. What it does is you ask it a question, and it not only searches Llama 3, which is Facebook's, it searches ChatGPT, Claude, searches all 3 of those, and probably another one. And then it searches online. And then it tells you what articles it's searching. And it ties the article that it searched to the specific answer it gave. So it's like a little footnote on this whole answer. And then you can save it in files that it has for you. It's like, hey, create a file for these. And then at the bottom, it says, you might want to ask these other questions based on your question above.
Oh, I like that.
Proximity is insanely awesome. That's probably my second favorite. And then my third favorite is one that's called Syllabi. It's Syllaby. And that one allows me to create faceless videos or AI talking head videos if I want to put those on my website, or if I want to build some other faceless socials with it. But that's really good. Those are the top three. And obviously ChatGPT on everything.
Yeah, of course. I love it. I love it. So I've got one last question. I promise it's the last question.
I like it.
Which do you think came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you think that the lawsuit came first, or do you think that the main plaintiff, that the lawsuit is named for real estate technology help you sell company came first?
I think the lawsuit came first. I think that I think just how people function, human nature, right? They see an opportunity. When they saw the opportunity and they're like, hey, we're going to take this all the way. In between that, as they were doing the case studies, because they spent a lot of money hiring and paying all these people, saying, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think? Oh, that's it. That's our way in, right? Once they figured that out, they probably thought, I bet we could create a company if we win that can compete against agents. And I think it happened before they went in. But the idea was, how can we screw agents first? Because this is not fair to me. That's what he thought.
Right.
Totally.
And do you think it's a flash in the pan? Do you think it's 15 minutes of fame? Or do you think it's actually viable?
No, 15 minutes of fame. There's no way they can compete against all these other companies right now. Even if it's post NAR, I don't care what the rules are. You're missing the core piece to real estate. This is what Zillow did. This is what Redfin tried to do. Can't do it. There's no way this works.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So where can my audience find you? Number one,
Instagram is probably the easiest. I respond the fastest. It's Tristan dot. My last name is Ahumada. It's spelled Ahumada. And people are like, wait, where's that from? What nationality? I'm like, my parents are Mexican. So there you go. I was born in LA.
And where do you live now?
I live in Malibu.
Malibu. Wow. Wow. There must be a lot of equity in those companies coming out.
No comment. No comment, Glennda.
I love it. I love it. Tristan, as always, I want to thank you so much for being here. Number one, for sharing your genius with my audience. Number two, for being an amazing leader in our industry and really helping agents, bringing them clarity and certainty in times of confusion. You have definitely been a trailblazer of our community. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for your leadership and for being a guest here with me today.
You know why you're so good?
No.
You make people feel good. That's why you're so good. That's why you're great, Glennda. You make people feel great. So thank you.
Tristan, thank you so much. You know what? Somebody said to me that this weekend, they said, do you realize that you love a lot? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, when you're talking to someone or you're talking about someone, he said, it's the tone of your voice, not just the words that you say, that show how the adoration and the love that you have. And I speak from my heart. And I never even think twice about praising or giving someone flowers. Now, don't get me wrong, because a lot of people will tell you. My mother used to always say, you know when you are on Betty Baker's shit list. And the apple did not fall far from the tree. I have no use whatsoever for people that I don't like. And just as sweet as I can be sour. So I appreciate your words so much, Tristan. Thank you so much.
Betty Baker, this is great.
Betty Baker was my mama. And I'm telling you right now, if she did not like you, I never will forget, this boy came to my house, Matthew Worley, and he says to my mother, he goes, Ms. Baker, is Glennda home? And she goes, yes. And then she slammed the door in his face.
That's so
He
good.
tells this story all the time.
Damn.
And he says, he goes, he knocks on the door again. He's, why'd you close the door in my face? She goes, I answered your question. That was all you asked.
Damn.
She didn't like him.
Wow.
She didn't like him. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glennda Baker. I am a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I had the amazing pleasure to sit down with my friend, Tristan Ahumada, and get the scoop on all things real estate. If you are not following him, run to his Instagram right this very second and click follow, because I'm going to tell you something right now. One thing for sure, he provides clarity and certainty in times of confusion for the real estate industry and especially for real estate agents. I'd love to talk to you. And as I always say, send me a text, tag me in a post, give me a call. That's what I love the most, because I'd love the opportunity to talk real estate with you today. See ya.